Hello, today we are going to go over order of operations. What and why order of operations are important. So what is order of operations? Order of operations essentially states which part of the equation will get evaluated first. So you can think of this as a step-by-step instruction on how to solve the problem. So what are operations? Operations tell you how the numbers are connected to another number. And again, these are based off the operations. The typical operations you're going to see are parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So a number in a problem will have if it's combined with another number, is going to have one of these operations that separate it, and that will tell you how they interact with each other. And so when looking at order of operations, you have to look in steps. So we have step 1 is looking at parentheses, step 2 is looking at exponents, step 3 multiplication, step 4 division, step 5 addition, and step 6 subtraction. And so with this, you can think of it as, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That's the way that I was taught growing up, and it's worked very well for me to remind me of when and where the order comes from. So P parentheses, E exponents, M multiplication, D division, A addition, and S subtraction. So when you think of these, again, these are the steps you're going to look at before solving the problem. So let's get into a problem and test this out. Okay, so we're looking at our first problem, and the first problem we have is in parentheses 2 cubed plus 2, and that's squared, minus 3 divided by 3 multiplied by 2. So you ask yourself, where do I start? And again, if we remember that acronym that I went over just earlier, it's going to be parentheses, so please excuse exponents, my multiplication, dear division, Aunt Sally, addition and subtraction. So again, looking at this, we are going to start with parentheses, which we see here, we have parentheses. So when we look in parentheses, then we have to ask the exact same question again. In the parentheses, do I have parentheses? Do I have exponents? Then do I have multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction? So again, we're asking ourselves, do I have a parenthesis? Yes. Now I ask the question again, do I have a parenthesis within the parenthesis? And the answer is no. So if that's the case, we can move on to exponents. So the first thing we're going to do is 2 cubed because that's the exponent. So that's going to be 8 plus 2, and that's squared, minus 3 divided by 3 multiplied by 2. So now we continue in the parentheses, and now we have 10 squared minus 3 divided by 3 multiplied by 2. So right, if we had a parenthesis here, really this just goes in, and so 10 squared is equal to 10 to the 2. It's all the same thing. It's just how you choose to write it. But just so for the example, we're going to take out the parentheses, so we are going to write it 10 squared minus 3 divided by 3 times 2. All right, so now we look at exponents since we're completely done with parentheses. So we can cross that out and we move to exponents. The only exponent we have is this first one, which is 10 squared, and that's 100, right? Minus 3 divided by 3 multiplied by 2. So now we are done with exponents. So now we ask ourselves, do we have multiplication or division? And we do. And so what we have to do is we have to look at the division and the multiplication right here. And so this is very, very important. We're going to come back to this step because if you do this incorrectly, you're going to get a completely wrong answer. So the correct way first, again, multiplication and division. So we're going to look at 3 divided by 3, which is 1. And we're going to multiply that by 2. And then we still have our 100 out front. And so now we are looking at multiplication since we just did division. And we have 100 minus 2. And now the answer is 98. That's what that equals. Now, you might ask, why did I do 3 divided by 3? first instead of doing 3 times 2 first? Well, if we are in a cluster of multiplication and division and they're only separated by multiplication and division, then like I said previously, it doesn't matter the order in which you do it. So if I do 3 divided by 3 multiplied by 2, that's 1 times 2, and that's exactly what I did, and that equals 2. I could do 3 times 2, right, divided by 3, which is kind of what we see there. So that's 6 divided by 3, which equals 2, the exact same answer here. Or if I wanted to, I think that's the only thing to do. Yeah, that's the only thing to do. I could do, I did this 2 multiplied by this 3. You can't see that, can you? What I could do is this 2 multiplied by that 3 if I wanted to. So, and that's going to give you the exact same answer. So, as I stated, as multiplication and division are concerned, as long as they are only separated by multiplication and division, it doesn't matter the order that you want to do them in. And so that's why I did in the problem 3 divided by 3 times 2, because I know it's just easier to multiply something by 1 than not by 1. So if we actually go the other way and not look at order of operations, let's see what answer we get that way. So say we had this 100 minus 3 divided by 3 multiplied by 2. So if I wanted to do this problem, again, the incorrect way, then I would do 100 minus 3, which would give me 97, divided by 3 multiplied by 2. So if I did it this way, 97 divided by 3 is 32.33. And then if I multiply that by 2, that's going to give me 64.66, which is completely different than the 98, which is the correct answer. Again, this is not right because this area right here is not correct. You have to do division and multiplication before you do addition and subtraction. So that's why it's very, very important to do order of operations, because your answer comes out completely different. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, so we're going to look at our next problem. This one's a little bit more complicated, but we will get there as long as we follow the rules as we talked about. So again, we're going to do 2 to the 4th power minus 14 squared minus 1, that quantity squared, divided by 3 squared, multiplied by 1 over 2 to the 4th. So again, you ask yourself, where do I start? Well, we first start with our acronym. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? So we're going to look at parentheses, then we're going to look at exponents, then multiplication, division, addition, and then subtraction. So again, we ask ourselves, are there in parentheses? And we do. We have parentheses right here, and we have parentheses right here. So we'll start with the first parenthesis, and then we'll work our way on the second parenthesis. Okay, so we're working with the first parenthesis, and we ask ourselves the same question again. Are there any parentheses within the parentheses? And we do. We have one right here. So then you ask yourself again, are there any parentheses within the parentheses? And the answer is no. So technically we are done with parentheses, and we can go to exponent when dealing specifically with this section right here. So looking at that, we're going to do 2 to the 4th power, which is 2 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, minus 14, right? And then that is squared minus 1. That raised to the power of 2 divided by 3 squared, 1 over 2 to the 4th. Okay? So now we're continuing with the parentheses. So 16 minus 14 is 2 squared minus 1. That quantity squared divided by 3 squared, 1 over 2 to the 4th. Okay? So now what we do is we have gotten rid of the inner parenthesis. Now we need to complete this larger parenthesis right here, right? And so that's what we have simplified down to right there. So let's keep going. So we have 2 squared, which is 4, minus 1. squared divided by 3 squared, 1 over 2 to the fourth. And now 4 minus 1 is 3 squared divided by 3 squared, 1 over 2 to the fourth. So now we need to complete the second parenthesis that we had over here, the siloed one. So 1 over 2 to the fourth is equal to 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So now we have 3 squared divided by 3 squared, 1 over 16. Okay, so now we have completed all of the parentheses. So now all the parentheses are gone. So our next thing we look at, the next operation, are exponents. And so we do exponents over the entire equation. So we have two exponents, right? We have an exponent here, and we have an exponent here. So let's solve those. 3 squared is 9 divided by 3 squared is 9 multiplied by 1 over 16. Okay? Okay, so now we have completed exponents. Exponents are gone. Now what are we left with? We're left with multiplication and division. There are no addition and subtraction in this problem, so we can cross those off, but we are left with multiplication and division. So let's continue the problem, right? So we have 9, which can be written 9 over 1, because anything divided by 1 is that number, right? And then we have divided by 9 over 16. Well, how do you redo this? As we know, 9 over 1 multiplied by 16 over 9 is how that is. And now we complete this by doing multiplication, and the answer is 16. And so that's the answer. And again, if you follow these steps, the parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and a subtraction, you'll never go wrong. Now, if you need a refresher on how to multiply fractions, how to divide fractions, how to multiply and divide, how to do exponents, how to even look at parentheses, I will link a description of all of those videos of how-tos below, and you can check those out to get a refresher and then come back and do this problem again. Please leave a comment below, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks.